Hi, fourth and fifth graders. This week we're on week 2 of Be a Perfect Person in Just 3 Days by Stephen Maines. If you guys want to get the book and follow along, you can. Remember that the library is open from 8:30 to 12:30 every day. I'm there. You guys can come in and get books anytime you want, as long as you have a face mask on. I do have a washing station and gloves. If you guys want to wear gloves, we can be as safe as you need to be, and there's only one person at a time that can come through. But we can have a line of people if we need to. So we are in chapter 2, and this is where Milo has just found this book called Be a Perfect Person in 3 Days, and he thinks this is going to be a great idea for him to have this book and to try and be a perfect person. So Milo had 2 cream stuffed Twinkies and a glass of milk and went to his room to get his homework out of the way. It took him longer than usual because his mind kept drifting back to Dr. Silverfish's book. Milo kept imagining what it'd be like to be a perfect person. He'd be able to do anything he wanted to do and do it right the first time. He'd be able to throw out all of his erasers. He could correct his teachers in front of the class and never be wrong. He'd get perfect scores on all of his tests, and best of all, nobody would ever have anything to scold him about. It sounded, well, perfect. He decided he'd read Dr. Silverfish's instructions right after dinner. Of course, he was far from perfect yet. At dinner, his father told him not to slurp his soup. His mother told him to quit eating so fast, and his sister told him to put his feet on his own side of the table. Milo couldn't stand it. "I bet you love me if I turn perfect," he said. His mother chuckled. "Not much chance of that, is there?" "I'd settle for okay," said his dad. "Nobody's perfect." "Especially Milo," laughed Alyssa. I will show them," Milo thought. "Just 3 more days." And he gave his sister a kick under the table. There's no sense being perfect until he had to be. After dinner, Milo went upstairs, sat down on his desk, and picked up his copy of Be a Perfect Person in Just 3 Days. And here he is. He's thinking of all the things he could do if he's perfect. Even with the clown nose, Milo decided that Dr. K. Pinkerton Silverfish looked extremely intelligent. Milo began wondering what the K stood for. Carefully, so he couldn't possibly stumble on anything he wasn't supposed to read yet, he opened the book to the inside back cover and found Dr. Silverfish's biography on the jacket flap. Is Dr. K. Pinkerton Silverfish the world's leading authority on perfection? You bet your booties. He is also Thompson Seedless Professor of Enology at the Ripple campus of Skid Row College. He holds degrees from the Fahrenheit University and Celsius Institute, but when his arms get tired, he puts them down. As a hobby, Dr. Silverfish raises Venus flytraps. He also owns the world's second largest collection of unusual toothpicks. Milo closed the book. His question remained unanswered, but he felt ready to begin. He took a very serious, deep breath and opened the book to where he'd left off at the library. So just a side note, all the things I said about, this is kind of a silly book, and all these universities and colleges are talking about are fake. Okay, day 1. You can't take the last step to perfection until you take the first. I know what you're thinking again. You're wondering what the K in my name stands for. Well, I'm not going to tell you. There are a lot more important things than wondering what the K stands for, and that's why you're here. Now close your eyes, count to 10, and then open them again. Milo did it. Wasn't that a lot more important than wondering what the K stands for? Of course it was. Now here are your instructions for the first day. When you finish reading this, get a stalk of broccoli, tie a loop of string around the end, and leave it in your bedroom overnight. When you're all dressed tomorrow morning, put the string around your neck and wear the broccoli like a necklace, and don't take it off until I tell you. See you tomorrow. Milo could not believe his eyes. He turned the page. Well, don't just stand there and stare. Go get the broccoli, and don't turn any more pages. Now shut the book this instant. Milo obeyed. He set the book down on his desk and looked at the picture of Dr. Silverfish. It was hard to tell because the doctor's hot dog blocked his expression, but Milo thought the doctor might possibly be smirking at him. Milo didn't think about it for very long, though. What he needed to do was find some broccoli. He went down to the kitchen, opened the freezer. Underneath a bowl of fake whip, behind a bag of instant waffles, he found what he was looking for: broccoli. in a delicious imitation cheese sauce made from only the finest, most succulent chemicals. Well, Dr. Silverfish hadn't said anything about imitation cheese sauce, but it was liable to be messy when it thawed out. So Milo closed the freezer, opened the refrigerator. He was in luck. There in the crisper, right next to the plastic bag of carrots, was a huge stalk of broccoli. Milo wondered whether he should take it without mentioning it to somebody. Normally, his parents didn't mind him taking things out of the fridge, but usually what he took was milk or a piece of pie or soda or something. Vegetables were a different story. Milo couldn't remember taking a single vegetable out of the refrigerator, unless pickles and olives counted. He figured he'd better ask just to be on the safe side. Milo went to the living room where his parents were watching the news. Mom? Huh? Do you mind if I borrow some broccoli for a while? His mother shook her head. Milo wasn't sure if that meant she didn't mind or if she wanted him to be quiet so she could hear about the gorilla war at the zoo, but he decided it probably didn't matter much, one way or the other, so he took the broccoli upstairs along with some string. Milo had a hard time keeping his mind on anything but the broccoli the rest of the night. He wondered how in the world wearing a stalk of broccoli around his neck could possibly help him be perfect, and he was half tempted to peek at Dr. Silverfish's book and try to find out. But he figured the doctor would probably outsmart him somehow, so he didn't bother. He'd been outsmarted once too often. Maybe that was part of the secret of being perfect, Milo thought, not letting people like Dr. Silverfish outsmart you. Well, he'd find out soon enough. Here he is. He's asking his mom if he can have the broccoli. That night, Milo dreamed about being perfect. He was sitting on top of a huge piece of broccoli, a halo of green light surrounding him as he smiled down at all the imperfect people in the world and laughed at all their mistakes. His sister bumped into the broccoli stalk and stubbed her toe, and Milo laughed and laughed. His mother locked her keys in her car, and Milo howled. His father dropped a bag of groceries, and Milo roared. In fact, he laughed so hard that he fell out of broccoli, or rather, his bed. So here's the picture of his dream. And that is the end of chapter 2. So we're going to see what this crazy stalk of broccoli does for him at school, tied around his neck. Can you guys imagine if you saw somebody with that at school? Don't think that makes you perfect, but we'll see. Maybe it will. So I hope you guys remember, come to the library 8:30 to 12:30 every day, or you can email me to come get a book. Have a great week. Bye.